Hello, I'm Marcus Railton and welcome to Series 3 of the Scots Care podcast. Scots Care is the only charity dedicated to helping disadvantaged Scots across London, breaking the cycle of poverty through services such as financial support, homelessness, mental health therapy, family support, advocacy, sheltered housing, social events and befriending, amongst others. In the new series, I'll be chatting with guests from all backgrounds, all with one thing in common: Scottish roots. Listen to the Scots Care podcast to hear their story. Now, today's guest is someone I suspect a lot of you will already know. If you're a fan of Shetland, and let's be honest, who isn't? Then you'll know Alison O'Donnell, who stars in the series alongside Ashley Jensen. She plays Tosh. Alison's work on the show has made her a familiar face to millions, but there's so much more to her story than what we see on screen. In this conversation we talk about her career, life as an actor, and some of the experiences that have shaped her along the way. Did you know that she was still temping and working in a call centre while she was acting in Series 3 of Shetland? She also talks about her connection to Scotland and why Shetland has become such an important place for her and her family these days. It's a really lovely, open and thoughtful chat, and I'm genuinely delighted to share it with you. So here we go with Alison O'Donnell on the Scots Care podcast.
Scots Care, for Scots in London in need of support, financial, practical or emotional help.
Hello.
Hi.
You're bang on time.
I know, I was noticing that I'm kind of anally punctual.
No, I like it. Because I start to panic immediately, Alice. I kind of go, right, they're not coming. They're not.
Yeah, I'm like that as well.
But thank you for doing this.
No, it's a pleasure. I've always wanted to do a podcast, so this is my first. You're breaking me in, Marcus.
Oh, that's good, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh.
Yeah, it's nice to be asked.
Thanks for doing this, and thanks for being so punctual.
Yeah, I know, but don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone that I'm really anal about being on time. It makes me seem very uncool.
We had a I can't remember what his name was. He was a former SAS guy on the podcast. That's terrible. I can't remember what his name was. And I always I turned it on about 10 minutes early, and he was sitting there ready, regimented straight, or calling something. And I said, "Oh, you're early." And he goes, "Yes, I'd rather be half an hour early than 1 minute late."
Wow. I would prefer people to be late for me than early. When people catch me off guard and I'm not ready, that's my worst.
Yeah, I know. I think sometimes I've been trying to relax into it as I get older. Like normally I'm sitting here for 20 minutes thinking, right, I'm just going to prepare. And then I thought I'll go downstairs and, you do the things you do when you're working at home. I emptied the dishwasher. And I thought I'll make a cup of tea, but then my I don't know what, my analness got too much, and I thought, no, I just got to go and sit in my podcast booth. I can't relax into enjoying emptying the dishwasher. You
can't pretend to be someone you're not at our age.
Well, that's very nice of you. I think you're substantially younger than me, but let's talk about you, because you were brought up in Motherwell.
Yes, I was.
And do you come from a creative family?
Well, I mean, I suppose it depends what you mean by that. I mean, I'm not an Epo baby. There was nobody working in the creative industries, but certainly they're all very creative. There's creativity everywhere, isn't there? Both my parents were linguists. That's how they met. And that is, that's hugely creative. My dad's a real autodidact, so he has continued to teach himself languages my whole life. He was always sitting with a book on Finnish or going to a Chinese class, or, he ended up with maybe 20, 21 languages or something.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and my sisters as well, they were always learning musical instruments and they drew. And so I feel like I was always surrounded by creativity, although that wasn't how they were making their living.
Yeah. Are you good at languages? I'm not. I kind of I've got English and Scottish, and that's basically English and Glaswegian probably.
Banter. I'm quite good at banter. I was one of those frustrating students of languages, I think. There's the classic had potential but didn't try hard enough. I think it would have come to me quite easily because I was so surrounded by it. Even now, I can sort of, I'm usually quite good at knowing where in the world someone's from, even
Yeah.
if I don't know exactly what they're saying, because I was just so exposed to it, I think, but I just didn't care. I had other things on my mind.
Well, this is it. It's just strange you should say that. Becky, my wife and I were talking about this yesterday in the car, and we were talking about, could we have done something different with our life? Could I have been Brian Cox and been an astronomer or something? I was
Yeah,
saying, well, I couldn't. I just don't think I'm that smart. And she said to me that she said, no, I think if you're not interested, then
that's
there's no way it's going in. And I think
that's
that's
exactly right. Yeah, because
yeah,
I've always been frustrated that my general knowledge isn't better. Like when I'm playing Trivial Pursuit, I think, why don't I know more? Started to sort of understand that I just wasn't interested in that stuff. My brain will retain the stuff that it's excited about,
yeah.
but it's not going to remember who was in charge of what country in the 1800s. Like it's just like, nah, there's not room for that.
I think that's good. I'm glad you're saying this. I got invited to one of these school quiz nights.
Oh
And
yeah.
I said to Becky, I said, no, she goes, you got to go. You go to nothing. And I go, I'm not going to that. I'm not going because there's all these big headed, pointy headed people and
Yeah.
I'll feel stupid.
Yeah.
I'll be sitting there and they go, Marcus's team, nil point.
Yeah, I know that's the fear, isn't it? Although, do you know what I found really surprising actually? I had a period of time when I was living in London and I was round the corner from my best friend, and we started going to a pub quiz regularly every Tuesday. And if you had said to me, actually, if you keep going, you'll get better, I'd have been like, that doesn't make sense. You either know stuff or you don't.
Yeah.
But you know what? I did. I got better. And I think it was partly a confidence thing.
Yeah, yeah.
The more I went and the more I got a question here or a question there, the more I thought, you know what, I'm going to just have a try here. And I started to get better at it. So actually, I think it's probably like anything. If you practice, I'm always saying this to my children, you just have to practice, just keep going. So I think there is an element of that as well. I mean, we're
Yeah.
never going to be those pointy heads, but I think you can get better if you want to. I was
Yeah.
socially motivated, which helped.
Yeah. And what age were you when you moved to London? And was
Straight
it
after drama school.
okay?
Yeah, so I guess I was 22, 23, something like that.
And whereabouts in London were you?
Oh, where wasn't I? So I lived there for 13 years in total, and I think I worked out one time that I moved house about 16 times.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. And they never caught you.
I remember being really pleased when I worked out. I hired a car one time to move house. It was a Ford Focus, and I'd managed to whittle my belongings down to fit inside a Ford Focus. And it was really liberating because I knew I was going to be moving again probably in a few months.
Well, this is it. But then, as you get older, and then you got the kids, like I
Yeah.
have. And I mean, we talk about like I'm based just outside London, and my dad's passed away now. But when we used to go and see him, and he lived in Saltcoats in the West Coast, it was like mobilizing an army.
Mm.
You were like you had we had the car, which is a 4x4, and that was full, and then we got a top box, and that was full. And you're thinking, we're only going for 3 days. It's mental.
I know. Yes, you acquire a lot as you go along, don't you?
Yeah. I want to talk about because you mentioned drama school there, but you must have been quite academic, and it sounds like you came from an academic family. And because you did initially, I read, if this is true, that you went to do uni, you went to uni to do law first of all.
I know, I did. I did come from a very academic family, quite sort of high achieving. And you get kind of swept along in that, I think, if you're academic at school. I had a couple of teachers who will always be so kind of big in my heart, who sort of would, catch me in a quiet moment and say, you should pursue drama, you should go for it. But the sort of loudest voice was, well, you go to university and you get a degree, and if you want to do something creative, you can do that afterwards, but you have to get that
Yes.
was the sort of party line. And I just was in a sort of slipstream, I think, just kind of following along and doing what was expected of me. So I went to study law and I lasted a month. So it was these, those giant lecture halls.
Yeah.
And I just felt completely invisible, just adrift in a giant room of people. And I just kept falling asleep. I was like cutting out like a lawnmower. I couldn't even keep my eyes open. And I sort of dragged it on for about a month. And then I just said to my dad, look, I actually can't do this. And he sort of said, at least finish the first year and then you've completed that. And I just knew, I was like, I can't do it. So I went away. I went off and worked abroad and was a children's entertainer for a Spanish hotel chain. And
I think
that
that's
was
a great job.
yeah, it was great. I loved it. And I was really fit, like the fittest I've ever been in my life from doing the mini disco every night. Like,
Oh, I do love a mini disco.
yeah, it'd be water polo. So that was great because it was a total palate cleanser. I just kind of ran away and cleared my head, I think. And then when I came back, I applied for drama school.
Love what Scots Care does? Help us spread the word. Share this podcast, tell a friend, or give us a shout out on social media. Like and share our posts. The more people that know us, the more Scots we can support.
When you came back, your dad was like, okay, you're going to give this a go. You're going to go to drama school with the idea that you would become an actor. And
Yeah.
they didn't try and talk you out about that, talk you out of it, because an acting career is so much more precarious than a lawyer.
I know. Nobody tried to talk me out of it. I mean, my mum was kind of into it. I think my dad was probably a little bit more reticent. But I think I benefited from being the baby in the family. So I'm the youngest of three sisters. And you know what it's like yourself, like with the first one, you're really trying to get it right. And then I think by the time it got to me, they were a bit like, it's all right. There are snacks in the fridge. She can help herself. She's going to be an actress. It's fine. So I don't know. Maybe this is a kind of new thought, but I think I probably did benefit from that they were quite relaxed by then. I think they could see that this was an itch I had to scratch. It wasn't going to go away.
And what kind of person are you regarding? See, I'm not very good at. I think I'm a warrior, and I think to be a successful actor, you have to embrace the times where you're not working as well as the times that you're working. Now, you've been a successful actor for a long time now. But do you remember before the likes of Shetland, where you were going up or you weren't booking auditions and you weren't getting jobs? I mean, were you able to relax into that?
No, not at all. I mean, I did all sorts of jobs. I was temping and I did just what's normal for an actor and in and out of different things. And I mean, sometimes it was good and you would end up somewhere where there were lots of out of work actors and you all kept each other going. And, there was one office in particular where we all put our headshots up on the wall, even though we were in a call centre, because it's sort of just to sort of not to lose ourselves or something. So those were actually really fun times that I look back fondly on. But I remember the first series of Shetland was actually airing, and it was London. Just because I'd filmed an early series of that show, the money ran out really fast actually, and then I was having to work in this really massive temping in a massive law firm. And just like in the basement trying to connect calls with like really impatient lawyers, like when I was getting it wrong, like fumbling the buttons, and I was miserable, like really, really, really miserable at times. It's hard. It's a really, really feast famine kind of lifestyle, and you're just sort of holding your nerve through those bits, or certainly I was.
Yeah, I imagine that's hugely difficult, and I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before to someone else that brought it up. And a friend of mine was in a really big. He's an actor, and it was a really big show, and he thought, that's it. I'm done. I've made it. I'm not going to have to audition. They're going to come to me. And he said he sat on his bum for a year after that.
Yeah. I mean, when I was working in that law place, Shetland was literally airing, and I was having to go into the canteen in my like suit that I bought in the charity shop to have lunch, and I was just trying to keep my head down in case. I mean, none of those lawyers were watching it because they're all working till midnight, right? But I
Yeah.
was just like, please don't recognize me, because then you get all the questions of like, why are you here? Because I think I think there is a sort of perception that, well, if you're on the TV, you're in a primetime BBC show, then why would you need to temp? But I needed to temp.
I think it almost becomes more difficult if you are in something like Shetland and people start to recognize your face and then wonder why you're not, you're not massively rich. I saw this interview recently. He was talking about, why is his name not coming to me this morning? Do you know why his name's not coming to this morning, Alison? Because I've tried to stop drinking coffee and I think it's not working out for me.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so
Oh.
yeah, normally I'm 4 or 5 a day, and I've had one this morning, a decaf, and this is not working for me at all.
Oh.
Who the guy from Slow Horses? What's his name?
Oh, Jack Loudon.
No, the older guy who's in Dracula.
Oh, Gary Oldman.
Yeah, how do you forget Gary Oldman? He said he was living in Hollywood, and he was in his 40s. And this, so that he'd obviously done Dracula and stuff like this, and all these other films. And he said he hadn't booked a job in over a year. You're thinking, well, that's Gary Oldman.
Oh, I know. And then all the money you've saved gets spent just on living, and it's really tricky. But the best thing that happened to me was when we were kind of like 3 seasons into Shetland, and I was working in a really nice place. Actually, a friend had got me a job on reception where she was. And so I was kind of fielding phone calls, showing visitors in, and these women came up in the lift, and the lift opened, and immediately she was looking at me. I thought, oh no, here we go. And she said to me, oh, now don't be offended, but you are the spitting image of that girl from Shetland. And I was thinking, why would that be offensive?
Oh no, of course.
So I just kind of looked at her and I was like, I am the girl from Shetland, and literally the lift was just closed, and she was looking at me going, what? Why are you here? And I've always remembered that, like, don't be offended.
Don't be offended. I love these things. Yeah. When you booked that job back, was it 2013 or 2012?
12.
So
Yeah.
could you have possibly have thought, here, I'll be sitting here in 2026 and it'll still be going great guns and going super strong?
No, it's barmy. But I also think that the television landscape has kind of changed as well. We've moved into big sort of long running shows and box sets and streaming, and I do think that the way we watch television changed kind of in parallel with our show. So like when we were setting out, I don't think it was possible to imagine the way the landscape is now, never mind what our show might become. But it's a funny thing because it's not like I ever relax into it. For a really long time, I don't know if people really remember this, but certainly in the first iteration of the show with Douglas, sometimes there were like 2-3 years in between those seasons.
Okay.
So it would take a while for it to get green lit, and then there's no light up there in the winter, so you had to wait for the summer to come back round. And it was actually, it was a very sort of gentle pace. I never felt like, this is something that I'm in and I'm doing and is always coming around and around and around. It was quite sort of sporadic.
Yeah. And I think there's so many reasons that Shetland works. And I presume you have probably on many occasions. I met Anne Cleves, the writer of Shetland, a couple of years ago, and she was the most down-to-earth woman I'd ever met in my life. She was just lovely.
Yeah, she should be Prime Minister. She's so wise. She's so benevolent. She's so smart and lovely and warm, and I just adore her. And yeah, I think there's so much of her in the original pieces of this, and the humanity of her characters. And I think we're still absolutely benefiting from that even now. That's the root of the whole thing.
Well, and this is interesting because she stopped writing after 8 books. I had a quote from her, actually. I looked it up. She says, where was it? She originally ended the series after 8 books, believing she had killed off a good proportion of the island's population, which is brilliant, because you wouldn't think it would work, because you think, well, it's Shetland. How many murders and killings can you have? But it's actually it's created a tourist industry, which you must feel quite fond of.
Yeah, yes, it's nice. I think to feel that we've benefited the islands in that way, that we've brought visitors from all over and sort of boosted that side of things for them is nice, because we take so much from them to make the show. So to think that we're able to give something back is yeah, of course, that's lovely.
Let me just ask you some just kind of my nosy questions, because I'm such a geek. How long does it take you to film a series, and how do you go up there and you spend all your time there? How does it work?
It takes about sort of 4.5 months to do the whole thing. And we go up twice. So we go up for 3 weeks, sort of round about the beginning of the shoot, and then we go up for another 3 weeks, maybe about halfway through. So we've got about 6 weeks out there.
Okay, that's quite. So I presume it's changed for you, because when you started way back in the midst of time, you wouldn't have had kids, and so now what do? Do you take the kids with you? Do they come up there?
Yeah, we all go. I mean, they are so attached to it now. They've made so many memories, you know, they now have their favourite places that they like to go. You know, they love that there's a couple of really brilliant parks in Lerwick that they love, and they love the pool, and just so many things that they love. And so much of you know, they were both there as babies. My wee boy took his first steps when we were in Shetland. It just is so, the two things are so, what's the word I'm looking for? Inextricably linked.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't go without them, really. It wouldn't make sense.
Homeless or at risk of becoming homeless? Scots Care offers personalised support, housing help, mental health services and financial grants. We're here to help you find your way home.
Shetlanders seem quite special people. I think. Yeah. I interviewed a guy last year for a book festival thing I was doing called Malachy Tallock, who was a writer. He's from Shetland, and he was a musician, and he had such a beautiful voice and a beautiful accent. But he also had a pace about him that just made me feel quite relaxed when I was around him. And did you find that when you arrived there as a kind of an old Motherwell, but a kind of Glaswegian, you know, coming from a big city and living in London for so many years, and then going to Shetland, did you have to check your pace?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the many magical things about Shetland. It's so much more remote than people think it is, you know. So when you go there, you really do have a sense that you're sort of traveling to the edge of the world, and when you're there, that you're just in the middle of the vast ocean, you know, and that brings with it a sense of just otherness, but it's a sort of magical kind of fantasy place, and really humbling, because, you know, we're always at the mercy of the weather, but oh boy, you know, it's so exposed, and you're so at the mercy of the elements, you know, of these things that are bigger than us, that it slows you down, it does. And it's something else that I became aware of really early on when I was visiting there, because I was living in London, I think. So this contrast is so stark, that people know each other and are accountable to each other. So in London, you know what it's like. You're getting jostled and shoved, and people are sort of shouting at each other because it's so anonymous and you're never going to see the same face twice. Whereas in Shetland, it really felt to me like sort of community living. So if someone accidentally bumps into you in Tesco, they're always so lovely and polite about it, and and I just had this sense, oh, we're accountable to each other because we share this place, and we're going to see each other again, and we probably know the same people. Well, not me, but you know, that's
I think there's a real value to that. I think there's something nice about that kind of strength in community. My wife was brought up in on Anglesey in the north of Wales, and we still go there quite a lot. And you know, there's lots of little hamlets or villages dotted around the island, but they do still literally leave their front door open.
Yes, same in Shetland, and the cars don't get locked. And
it's we're never going to get it in London, but it's nice to visit. I do like it a great deal. What I wanted to talk to you about was the way the show has changed over the years, because when Tosh started, she was quite low, so then she's kind of climbed the ranks, and now, like you mentioned, Douglas Henshall has left and Ashley Jensen has come in, and so what's the word I'm looking for? It's the kind of dynamic between you and Dougie. He was kind of your mentor, and then by the time Ashley joins, you're a senior officer, so it gives it a different feel. It's like it's gone from kind of senior detective and mentor to now having two strong female leads in the show, which I think really works.
Good. Yeah, I think so. It always felt like a gamble, because we had done 7 seasons with this sort of iteration of the show. And I was so proud of it. And when I found out that they were going to sort of roll the dice and bring it back, I felt slightly protective, like, oh no, what if we sort of undo the legacy of this that we've worked so hard to build? But it really works. I think that the creative team were very clever about how they introduced Ashley's character. I think it was really smart that she was kind of reluctant to be there. So anyone who was kind of hanging on to the old version or feeling maybe just a wee bit reticent about it, they were given the space to warm into it rather than having anything forced. And I think because I was still there to sort of maintain the house style and to have that sort of continuity, it was the best of both worlds. So I really think it was a high wire act, but they really nailed it and really sort of traversed that in the best way they could have. So even though I was nervous about it, I'm obviously so glad that we did it. And even with this version, I'm like, wow, really? We're still here. Okay, great.
I think it works really well. And I get why why you say you were nervous about it, because I've seen shows before where they've replaced main characters and you just go, it's, but I think maybe because Ashley is so different from Douglas Henshall, it does take it off in a new direction. And not only you there as continuity, I think it kind of made your character even bigger in my mind, and it makes Tosh the kind of emotional anchor of the show, which I really enjoy now.
Yeah, and I think what's helpful as well about the way they've brought these two characters together is we sort of cover different zones, so she's bold and instinctive and sort of fast, whereas Tosh is a bit slower, she's more empathetic, she'll sort of sit back a bit more. And the more Ruth is Ruth, the more it gives Tosh permission to be Tosh, and vice versa. So we're able to really lean into those flavours, I think, and sort of give each other permission to really go there. And then but the balance of the two coming together means you never have too much of one or too much of the other. Yeah. So that's a real pleasure to play.
I think one of the main characters who hasn't changed, which is, and I don't mean this to sound all highfalutin, but is Shetland, because it is one of the main characters. When I was chatting to Denise Minor, the crime writer, she was talking about how location in her books is so fundamental to the plot. And I think just watching Shetland, because there's so many beautiful drone shots and high shots and shots of you driving around, and you think that is a cornerstone of the show.
I think that's, there's, I think any show that does well and is long lasting, it's about the alchemy of all the different parts coming together. But I think that is our superpower. Like, if you took that element away, I'm not sure. Do you know what I mean? You could take any of the other elements away and it would probably still hang together. But that's the foundation. That's the root, I think, because it's so unique and it's so different. And also, I think it lends itself so purely to the crime genre because it's a small community. People know each other. You can't run away. Billy will have you being watched at the ferry port and he'll be watching the airport. And so there's a sort of claustrophobia
Yeah.
And there's all this sort of history of the land and history of relationships. Everyone's very enmeshed. So it just works. It just sings. And again, that's Anne Cleeves. She spotted that.
Yeah, I think it's like many things in life. You don't know that it's going to be a huge hit, and then when you say, "Well, what we'll do is we'll replicate this by taking two great, strong female lead characters, and we'll put them on an island, and then we'll give them a crime to solve," and it's just not that simple. Shetland is so nuanced, I think, and I don't think it's not a recipe. It's I
Yeah.
think alchemy is the word, isn't it? That's it.
Yeah. And I think you had said like it sort of becomes more than the sum of its parts just in the doing of it. Well, for now, I'm always waiting for the moment where everybody goes, "Do you know what? We've actually had enough." And you go, "No, we've outstayed our welcome." God. That's my big fear. But for now, it seems to be holding steady. So.
I reckon that one day, when it is over, as ultimately all things come to an end, surely they'll just put a statue of you up in Lerwick somewhere. I can see that.
Well, it's about time.
You'll get that other plinth in Leicester Square or where it is, Trafalgar Square.
At least, I would hope, at least.
Big feelings can be hard to handle. Scots Care offers counselling for children. Safe, supportive and designed for young minds. We offer 6 introductory Zoom therapy sessions with parents to get started. If you have a child in need, contact us.
I read something about you that kind of really struck a chord with me in that you were talking about bringing up kids during COVID, and it really struck a chord with me because I got 2 boys who they were off school during COVID for a long time, and my little girl Indy, she was a toddler at the time, and you said you felt it, and you had a toddler at the time and a newborn, and you felt that quite isolating and tough. And I was so glad you said it because we found it so tough, and Indy missed out on so many of the things that the boys had, like play groups and going to soft plays. And could you talk about how you felt that tough?
I just felt like it was one long continuous day for months and months and months. And anyone who's had really young children knows how relentless that is anyway. But what you have when there's not a global pandemic is lots of ways to break it up. People dropping in, someone pops in, makes a cup of tea, you go to a little class, you get out for a walk. Whereas I just felt like we were in a washing machine going round and round and round, and it just never ended. And, there was there's a lot of crying, little children, they cry. And I just felt like I was stuck in the same. I mean, to be honest, I think it sounds worse for you. I didn't have children that were also supposed to be getting homeschooled, but I just found it to be, and I think about this quite a lot actually, that there's such a spectrum, isn't there, of pandemic experiences. And I think one of the really good spots was like people who had recently had an empty nest and then they got their children back, like grown-up children who came back and they played Scrabble and got time together that they wouldn't actually otherwise have had. And I just felt like we were like at the opposite end of that, like at a point in our life where we really needed extra people and help and community, and we were completely isolated. It was really, really tough.
Yeah, I found it very tough. I mean, I think my little girl, I felt very sorry for her. She missed out on a lot of stuff. And my 2 boys, I remember Joe Wicks used to do the exercise in the morning. And try to get, I remember Becky trying to get the boys up. Go on, Joe Wicks is on the telly. They're like, aye, so he is.
I'll take more than that.
Yeah, we're not doing that. And I'm jumping around the living room. Come on, boys, let's exercise with Joe.
Yeah.
And then trying to get them to sit down and do distance learning.
Oh God, I don't even know. I wouldn't have bothered. I think I would have just given up.
I think we did for a long. I think it's and I think it's kind of showing. And my older boy's now 16, and I think it's kind of all the time he missed out. It's kind of showing in his GCSE results and stuff. So it was tough for those kids. And
really tough.
I so empathise with when you were talking about it. And I've had a couple of other actors on the podcast who are also married to creatives, and I wanted to talk to you briefly about that because Sharon Small was on, the actor from The Bay and stuff like that.
Her.
And she was brilliant. She's married to a photographer, and Michelle Gomez.
Yeah.
She came on, and we did an interview with her from her apartment in New York, and she's just bonkers. She's married to Jack Davenport, and she was talking about, they were both kind of talked about the balance, that kind of juggle, and I presume you have that as well because you're married to a playwright. So,
well, can I just set the record straight? I don't know who it was in the public domain that decided I have a husband. I don't have a husband, Marcus.
Oh, there you
I've
go.
got
There's
a baby
Wikipedia
daddy.
for you. Yeah.
I know, everywhere it always talks about my husband, and I'm like, I've never met this man. Where is he? Where is he? I better tell my partner about him because he doesn't know. Yeah, we are very much not married, but living as if we were. So what was your question? I got totally.
It was just most about how you do the juggle, because my wife and I do the juggle as well, and I just wondered how, if he's writing or if he's away for work, if he's directing or doing something like that. Is it a constant juggle for you guys?
It's okay. He is amazing. None of this would be possible without him. Because he's a writer, he's very much based at home if he needs to be. So, when I disappear for 4 months doing sort of 12-hour days, he throws himself in. And it's tough, but I also know that he really cherishes that time actually, because he always becomes really close with the kids, and they have such a strong bond during that time. And so, there'll be a couple of weeks at the start where we need to sort of transition and it gets a bit hairy. But then they come into their rhythm together. But it's not like I remember when we were filming one of the seasons, and this brilliant job came in for Daniel. He was writing an episode of a TV show, and it was too good, we couldn't turn it down. And that was for him. I don't know how he did it. So he was like getting up with the kid. I'm out of the door at like 6 o'clock in the morning. So he's getting up with them. He was with them all day. I'm walking back in the door at 8 o'clock at night. He's been with them all day. And then he would just like turn on his heel, go up the stairs, shut the door, and start his own day's work.
Wow, that's dedication.
That
isn't it?
was hell. It's like, we were both just spread so thin. But that's the only time I think where we've really overlapped. Like mostly what he's doing, he'll manage to get done around my working days, and it's not quite so brutal. And also there now, my daughter's at school now, and so that takes a bit of the pressure off because there's a bit more space available. But yeah, so far I have to say, touch wood, it's been all right. And then obviously when I finish filming, I just hand over to him and I say, right, this is your time, so you can do whatever you want basically. And I try and pick up as much of the slack as I can in that time. But I'm extremely grateful to him. It's not easy, and this industry is not family friendly, and it puts a huge, enormous strain on the families of people who are in the jobs. And I find it hard, and I have, I'm not in every scene. I have days off. I have days where I'm just in the morning. The crew are there from the word go to the word end every single day. I do not know how they do it. I really don't. It needs an overhaul, the whole thing. I'll not get into it, but it's bonkers. It's not good for people's health.
No, you can't work like that endlessly. I asked, I said to Michelle Gomez, I said, would you like to work with Jack Davenport as your husband, and she went, oh God, no, I've got to talk about emptying the dishwasher with him. I certainly don't want to work with him. And then she said, church and state should never mix. But you met I nearly said husband, you met your partner.
Yes.
Working together.
Yes.
Would you work together again?
I would love to. He's less keen. He, for a really long time, he was like, no, we shouldn't. And I think he was probably right. but then once we had the kids, I mean, the jig is up. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that we haven't experienced already.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can't face at work that we're not facing at home, you know. So we did actually, I don't know if you know, but they play a pint at Oran Moor in Glasgow.
Well,
So
yes, I've never been, but I know exactly what you
it's
mean.
amazing. So these little lunchtime plays that just go on for a week. And he wrote one and I was in it, and that was a few years ago. And actually, do you know what? We had the best time. It was so amazing because he knows how to write for my voice, like better than anyone. You know, he knows me so well. And I just had the most fun on stage, like with his words in my mouth. And it just felt like it was so creatively exciting. Like, honestly, just remembering it now, I'm like, wow, it was so good. And so now I'm like really hounding him, like, please, would you just write something for me? Like, write a telly for me or something, and we'll try and get it on. But he's kind of now a bit like moving away from it again. I don't know. I think he just wants to focus on his own stuff, which is so fair enough.
It's difficult, isn't it? And what gets made and what gets picked up. I talking to Denise Miner about this. She said to me, everything I have ever written has been optioned. And then she explained to me that means that you get the rights for a year. And I said, oh, that's amazing. She says, no, hardly anything's ever been made.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to go from the writing and then the option to actually seeing it on screen.
Yeah. And I think a lot of things hang around for years and years and then eventually just get binned. I think it can be frustrating as a writer for sure to be in that sort of process.
Yeah, well, I think she's one of the very lucky. She did say she thinks you could count on both hands how many people are full-time authors making a living in Scotland. And she's very open about it. She says every time it gets optioned, and she said this on the podcast, so I'm not speaking out of turn, she says, they give me 30 grand. So these days I just take the 30 grand. And I'm thinking, I'd take the 30 grand.
Yeah, I think you can make a lot of money in development, but like anybody who's writing scripts isn't, you're not making them to have them be in suspended animation for 3 years and then never see the light of day. You know, people want their stuff to be made. So I'm sure it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, exactly that. Let me ask you one last question. After all these years with Tosh, what part of her do you think will stay with you when Shetland ends?
The money.
The money. the repeat fees.
Yeah, the residuals. No. I don't know, Tosh. My favorite thing about her, so there's a lot of her that's quite close to me, to be honest. But where I feel I'm doing my best acting, like really not something that I can draw on from personal experience, is how good she is in a crisis. I'm a total mess, right? Like, I'm a jelly, you know, my nervous system is just a sort of vibration. Whereas she turns up, she's level-headed, she keeps her cool, she knows, you know, how to delegate what needs done, what to prioritize. I would love to channel that, you know, and I do try sometimes, like, what would Tosh do? You know, and she's seen so many terrible, grisly things, and she's still just like turning up for the work, loving it. So I think that she's an inspiration from that point of view.
Alison, thanks for joining us today. Thanks, you've been a delight to chat to.
Yeah, it was lovely to talk to you too. Thank you so much for having me.
See you again.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Could you help a fellow Scot in London? A monthly donation of any amount makes a real difference. Visit scotscare.com and click donate to sign up for monthly giving.